Welcome to DC On Screen, a podcast about DC Universe properties being brought to film and television. I'm David C. Robertson, and this is my co-host, Jason.
Hello.
All right, so this week, as promised, we are going to talk about an animated series called Batman, the Brave and the Bold. It premiered in November of 2008 and ended in November of 2011. This was a huge...
I know it'll be just astonishing to hear us talk about an animated series, because we never do that.
We never talk about animated series.
We hate animated Batman.
Oh, Jason. Oh, Jason, you silly goose.
Sorry.
I don't know what that noise was, but... Okay.
I don't either. Go forth and pitch your show.
This is a show, and a lot of Batman fans were really turned off by this show. They didn't give it a chance. It's old blue and gray Batman. He looks like the old
Well,
Dick
Fillion
Spring.
sings it best at one point. The gray and blue.
He looks like the old Dick Sprang drawings from the 50s comic books. He looks cheesy and goofy as all hell.
Yeah.
But
His
I'm here to
face is a
tell
weird
you.
There's some weird... even the drawing of him is strange. I don't care
He's
one
smiling.
bit.
He's smiling. It's weird. But
Tells
I'm here to
jokes.
tell you today, and I shit you not. I don't care if your favorite Batman was Batman the Animated Series. I don't care if you sit around writhing naked on top of Frank Miller drawings.
In Heath Ledger Joker makeup.
Batman the Brave and the Bold is amazing.
And it'll be
It is
amazing
one
in
of-
two ways. It'll point out how great it is to have some fun with this character. As the show itself points out, it ended up being a love letter to the Silver Age. You're gonna watch. You won't make it through 2 episodes before you have to look up and go, "Who the fuck was that? What?
Yeah.
Who's that guy?"
And-
at some point, there's a prison break in episode. Was it? Yeah, it's like episode 5, 4. No, 4. There's a prison break, and we ended up having to sit there and freeze frame it and try to figure out who everybody was.
Yeah.
Like Bookworm shows up. Bookworm.
The
Bookworm.
opening credits, and to some degree the tone of the show borrow heavily from the Bill Dozier, Adam West Batman series of the late 60s.
Yeah. The level of camp,
But
at
it's-
least, was borrowed.
But the camp is updated. It's more tongue-in-cheek than it had been previously.
Mm-hmm.
You have Diedrich Bader from the Drew Carey Show,
Oswald,
in Office
as I
Space.
lovingly met him.
As Batman, and he does a fantastic job. You're also going to get John Dimaggio as Aquaman.
It's great.
Now that's not the only character he plays, but
Well, and that goes for both of them. It's a voice
Right.
actor heavy show. So if you hear somebody, there's D. Bradley Baker, or as people know him these days, the Goldfish in American Dad. He's all
Yeah.
over the place. He shows up immediately as Clock King, and then you're not going to stop seeing him till the whole thing's over. But you have to listen close. If you want to play a game of name that voice, throw on a few Brave and the Bold episodes.
and if episode one, man, Rise of the Blue Beetle. You get Will Friedle, previously known as Terry McGinnis of Batman Beyond, as Blue Beetle Jaime Reyes, and it is
we're doing
a
the
delightful
Jaime
romp.
Reyes version too.
Yeah,
They did a good job of when they go back and we're talking about the DC universe here. When you go and pick a character, if you then have to pick which version of that character.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, they could have gone with Ted Kord, and they do. They have
And
the
by
best
the
of
way-
both worlds, but
By the way, as a final selling point,
it won't be the final one.
well, no, but
As the next in a string of successive strong selling points.
yes, Kevin Conroy shows up as the Batman of Earth X or Batman of Zurin R. And he shows up as the Phantom Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of fun bits like that. There's an episode where Batman winds up going to Earth X or whatever, as it was in the Silver Age comics anyway. And he meets a Batman of that world who is voiced by Kevin Conroy. The Lex Luthor equivalent there is voiced by Clancy Brown.
Of course.
Um,
Just fucking of course.
I think Dana Delaney is even the lowest of that. Yeah, Vilsey Vaylor.
Yeah.
She was Lois Lane in Superman the Animated Series.
It's a whole revival show is what it is.
Oh my God! There's an episode. God, what is it called? I don't even remember now.
What happens?
It's the episode where I've had it in my head for weeks. It's the episode where Batman finds out who killed his parents.
Oh, Chill of the Night.
Chill of the Night. That's
Yeah.
it. He finds out that Joe Chill killed his parents. In that episode, the Spectre and Phantom Stranger, these two celestial beings, have made a wager over what Batman will do, on whether or not he will kill Joe Chill or he'll do the right thing and take him to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And man, Phantom Stranger is Kevin Conroy, and the Spectre is Mark Hamill. In the same episode, we get a flashback. We see Thomas and Martha Wayne, and they're Adam West and I think Julie Newmar. Isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you are a Batman fan, you've got to check this. You got to check this shit out, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is not.
It is cartoon and WB authorized fan wank.
It is. Neil Patrick Harris as
Neil
Patrick Harris as the Music Meister.
Oh God, I could do a whole. Honestly, I would happily do like an entire show about just Mayhem of the Music Meister.
Yeah.
Not only is it just it was almost flawless. The only exception is like the Death Trap song, which still even has a little joke to it because she finishes singing and she didn't need to sing. She has the little earplugs in. She's not under any kind of spell. And Batman kind of asked her, "Was the singing really necessary?" She just kind of looks at him, blinks her eyes. Well, so they even throw a joke into that just for the hell of it. But Neil Patrick Harris pops in as the Music Meister.
Mm-hmm.
Does a phenomenal job. That man has pipes.
Not only that, John Wesley Shipp, also known as the Flash in the 90 series, and Barry Allen's dad in the new Flash series, he plays Professor
You'll recognize
Zoom.
him as that older guy with a giant jaw. That's not Bruce Campbell.
He plays the Reverse Flash in Batman Brave and the Bold. If you're a Star Trek fan, you've got Armin Shimmerman, Quark from Deep Space Nine. He plays the Calculator, Psycho Pirate.
Yeah.
Oh my God, oh man, there's so many people. Paul Reubens is Batmite.
Oh,
how do you turn down Pee Wee Herman as Batmite?
I couldn't.
Alan
I can't
Tudyk
answer
is
that
the
question.
Flash.
I obviously couldn't.
Alan Tudyk of Firefly is the Flash. Jeffrey Tambor from Arrested Development is Crazy Quilt.
Right.
How are you not already watching this? Just from the cast list alone.
Now, and the fun part is if you've never seen it, just forget everything we said and go play a really fun round of Name That Voice.
Oh, man.
If you have any kind of instinct, or if that's something you've found fun, like if you're the kind of person who watches Family Guy and hears Paget Brewster and goes, I know who you are. This thing's a romp. Because you said they're watching a perfectly good Batman story. And by the way, we've said this about a couple things. Or we've addressed whether you could watch it with your kid a couple times. This is the most watchable thing you could sit down with. I mean, anyone old enough to understand a story structure, and they'll be fine. There's nothing in here that's going to obviously veto me if you're a parent and feel like doing so. But there's nothing in here that I wouldn't recommend is something you could sit down and watch with a kid of whatever age.
Dude, Will Wheaton plays Ted Kord's Blue Beetle.
Of course he does.
I mean, come on. Henry Winkler plays Ambush Bug.
Yeah,
if you don't know who Ambush Bug is the original Deadpool. He's DC's Deadpool. This is a character who breaks the fourth wall. He knows that he's a comic book character, or in this case, he knows he's a cartoon
lives
character.
On the fourth wall. He's got a little tiny summer home.
Ambush Bug is a character. His arch nemesis is a sentient sock.
Right. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now, unfortunately,
Weird
the
Al
sock
Yankovic
doesn't show up anywhere in Brave and the Bold.
Weird Al Yankovic shows up as himself.
Oh, yeah. You don't need to actually make him anything. Unless you're doing some of the recent, New 52 based Batman films, in which case he's going to be Dollmaker for you. So
yeah,
that'll be creepy. Now, look, what my favorite part of Ambush Bug in this show, I think he only shows up in the very last episode. I think he only shows up in Mindfall. And it's Henry Winkler doing a show about, during the course of the show, Batmite, the Mixius Spitlicks of Batman's world, a creature from the fifth dimension that basically does whatever the fuck he wants to with these four, comes in, decides he's bored with the show because it's gotten a little too campy, and there's and he wants something a little more gritty, and they really do an entire episode that it's basically addressing the fans who kind of watched the show and enjoyed it, but wouldn't mind if they took a little bit of a darker turn like they do sometimes. Because there is it gets a little heavy, but it's never dark heavy. It's just sometimes they do an episode that has real consequences.
Right.
Like
this is a Batman TV show that has made me laugh and has made me cry. I mean, kill people.
There's a whole string of episodes in season 2, mid-season 2, where they went a little heavy there for a second. And it's nothing that's improper or inappropriate. It's just that they actually, people die. The entire Doom Patrol, for instance, sacrifices themselves and they make a whole episode about how, you're heroes, and this is an island of only 14 people. Surely you think you're worth more. And the Doom Patrol decides that they're not worth more than even 14 people and gladly get blown up. And the entire world sits there and chants, "We are the Doom Patrol. We are the Doom Patrol."
Yeah.
It's a very it's a maudlin but inspiring episode.
I got chills just hearing you talk about it, man.
Right? But they do all this, and they go back and forth about every now and then they'll get a little heavy. Like Chill the Night is not. It's not a fun episode. By the way,
that was a Paul Dini episode,
right? And it's Paul Dini doing some of the stuff that made him feel the feels. So when you get to the very end, Mightfall, it's kind of the show talking about how it's getting pulled in similar directions, and at this point they're having to kind of redo the same kind of campy, overly adventurous, even outrageous, if you will, stunts. And some part of the fan base wants to see a darker Bat, and they even bring up, what's actually going to follow. It was kind of what was in process at the moment was that it's the show you've watched, the CGI one that I can't.
Beware the Batman.
Beware the Batman. So they kind of even reference that they're about to do something really like that.
Mm-hmm. Except what they acted like they were going to do was totally more what I would want than Beware the Batman. It was a CGI Batgirl show,
which I would watch in a fucking heartbeat.
I would watch that any day of the week.
Oh yeah, yeah, twice.
I'm sorry, honey, we're not watching Seinfeld tonight. We're watching Batgirl.
Right.
That is happening. I don't care if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is new. Batgirl is on.
I'm sorry, but it's a replay. I know. Maybe I missed something. But you get to the very end of the show, and they're talking about how the show's jumped the shark. So every time I hear Henry Winkler's voice pop up, it makes me giggle just a little bit. They even have sharks in the opening scene. There's even, I think Batman's riding a shark or something. Aquaman's involved, so the sharks are good guys for a second.
This show, there aren't many episodes where Aquaman is not involved.
Thank
one
God.
of those though is the first episode. The first episode, Aquaman is not involved, and to you get a good set. They set the tone really well. Batman and Blue Beetle wind up going to stop an asteroid from crashing to Earth. They get sucked into some sort of a wormhole and save a whole race of aliens from Kanjar-Ro. And when they come back, the asteroid is in exactly the same space, and it hasn't moved anywhere. And Blue Beetle says, "Well, we've been gone for like 2 weeks. How is the asteroid not hit Earth yet?" And Batman goes, due to the temporal blah blah blah. And he has this great like science fiction-y sounding thing. Due to the temporal nature of the wormhole, the asteroid hasn't moved because we haven't, blah blah blah. And then you hear Batman's internal monologue, and he says, which is really just a fancy way of saying that's really weird.
Right. But it's a
seriously,
perfect
most of the stuff
That's
I see
the
in this
Batman
job.
You're getting. He's a very game kind of Batman, but
Yeah,
he's going to be funny. And I say funny. He's a one-liner heavy Batman, and they're all just as bad as 66 ever was.
no,
And even more alliterative.
oh yeah. There's some really funny bits in there. Like they play Batman way more curmudgeonly than the Adam West Batman ever was.
Well, I mean, like for instance, they do cold opens on this show.
They do.
So there's always like a little mini adventure at the teaser plot, and then so it's on one of them, Journey to the Center of the Bat, which is fucking hilarious. You have Elongated Man and Plastic Man arguing over who Batman likes teaming up with more, and then Batman finally shows up to the heist that they're trying to foil, and it just tells him, truth be told, between the two of you, I'd rather work alone.
Yeah. Now there was a fun bit. There was a fun teaser that was Batman and Green Arrow, and we talked about how awesome it would be to actually just see that on Arrow.
Right.
It was Batman and Green Arrow like counting. They're actually taking down bad guys, but they're counting. They're having a little competition to see who can take out the most villains. with batarangs or arrows or what have you.
And the internal dialogue is always Batman's internal dialogue is always saying, "I know it's really childish that we have these little games," and they are. They're sitting there like holding up 4, and then the arrow shoots somebody, and the arrow will split into 2, and he'll hit 2 people instead and hold up 5. That kind of crap. They sit there and talk. His internal dialogue keeps saying, "Yeah, I know it's really childish. It's probably a lot of a waste of time." Blah 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 blah. And then they get a little indicator on their screens that says there's a heist somewhere, and they hop in their little mobiles of whatever variation. And so I'll bet. What does he say? Like, I'll bet this thing can make it there faster than your hunk of bolts or whatever.
Yeah.
And they do. They race. It's really extremely childish and a lot of fun to watch. And it's the kind of thing that you hope you see at some point in the Arrow.
Yeah. Man, we can't not talk about him. Aquaman is maybe the best character in the entire series.
Yeah, he's the standout. I mean, Blue Beetle did a pretty good job of standing out as well, but
he did.
But yeah, John Dimaggio.
John Dimaggio as Aquaman.
Bender, man, it's Bender as Aquaman.
This is a boisterous, flamboyant version of Aquaman. He loves adventure.
He does.
Anytime danger arises, he just swells and says, "Outrageous!"
Yeah,
he's so happy.
Lots
this
of good
is
one-liners for him.
So
Journey
many.
to the Center of the Bat, the whole thing with Platelet is just phenomenal. My favorite, I think my favorite line out of him at some point is later a little. They like putting him and it's the new Adam. I always forget that kid's name. I always forget that kid's name. The new Adam, the guy after.
Gosh, what is his name?
Okay, I don't know. We'll find it at some point. But
we'll find it. But
sorry, Adam. They end up having to go. They end up sneaking kind of into Batman's internal organs so they can. He's sick. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But they always stick him and Adam together because Adam's always a reluctant hero, and Aquaman's this version of Aquaman at least is just he's the epitome of it. This is what he lives for, waking up and facing villainy, I suppose. And he
Ryan Choi was his name?
I think so. God,
I'm
really bad with his name. Anyway, best line out of him in the series is probably they shrink down for one episode. They come across this giant frog, and he just tells them, amphibians, I never trust them. Land or sea, pick a side. I love it. I loved it.
I can't remember what it was that he actually found in that episode, but he finds this little.
No, he finds the bug is a silverfish, and
what?
Adam's trying to give him. He's saying like, "Oh, I'll find us a ride," and Adam's saying like, "You have control over fish. We're in the middle of the jungle. There's no fish here." And then he does his little thing, and a couple of silverfish pull up, ready to help him out, and he just looks at him all smug and says, "Even on land, a fish is always a fish."
Oh, that's so bad.
Oh, it's terrible, and just exactly what you expect out of this character.
No, but this was a gosh, what was it? Oh, that's what it was. No, when they're in Journey to the Center of the Bat, when they're inside of Batman, Aquaman tries to summon a thing, and he winds up finding this little globby-looking thing, and he says, "I shall call him Platelet."
But it's a lymphocyte. Platelet it is.
Yeah. Adam goes, "That's a lymphocyte," and he goes, he's like, "Platelet it is."
Later in the episode, the poor little lymphocyte does finally get eaten up by the virus they're in there to stop, and you just have this outcry of platelet. It's fantastic.
Yeah, seriously, if you ever wanted like
you actually care about that poor lymphocyte by the end of the episode.
If you've ever wanted a funny, very nearly Adult Swim version of Batman, this is the way to go.
I think it actually air during Adult Swim for a little while there.
I don't think so.
It was on Cartoon Network.
It was on Cartoon Network. It was. Game over for Owlman. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The whole Owlman thing, where they have a whole plot where Batman winds up going over to a parallel Earth and finds the Injustice Syndicate, and Batman winds up.
It's a two-parter, by the way.
Yeah, two-parter. Owlman winds up coming over to the normal universe and is running around in and by the way, Golden Age Batman outfit. Oh man, there's just so much good stuff in this show.
I mean,
there really is.
That episode, he ends up actually working with the Red Hood.
Yeah,
the Red Hood proper, like the Earth 2 kind of.
Yeah.
This is actually the Joker, but in this version of things, he ended up being a good guy because he's just on the right side of it this time. He's still just as batshit crazy, but this time he happens to be on the protagonist's side. Incidentally, they do a very trippy thing. You remember this episode? What is that one called? Come here. Joker, the Vile and the Villainous. Mm-hmm. You have to get past the teaser because any of the teasers with Kamandi are just the least interesting thing ever.
Yep.
Poor Kamandi. I just don't give a damn about you.
Is that his name? Kamandi? I thought it was Zamandi.
Kamandi. And his, I care more about his dog friend.
Oh, Kamandi. Yeah, it is Kamandi, isn't it?
But Joker and the Weeper in this episode.
That was actually Tim Robbins playing him.
Now, the Weeper, maybe one of the worst characters I've ever heard. If you just pitched the idea
Tim Robbins. Tim Conway. Sorry.
Yes. If you just pitched the idea of the Weeper, I would laugh you out of the room. I mean, but here they go for it. And the Joker tries to
by the way, Weeper is an OG villain.
He's what?
Weeper's an OG villain.
Oh, no, he's OG.
Back in
I know.
He's like 30s, man.
I know. Like he wasn't even originally owned by DC, I think. He's one of those people they just sort of got in a glom of IPs that they acquired at some point and went, oh, who's that?
This is like they went to the flea market and they found like a bag of IPs that had
as many characters as you could fit into the sack for $5.
Just a ton of them, and they were like, well, we can integrate these guys, I guess. Whatever.
I don't know. We're never going to use them, but. And then somebody on Brave and the Bold's looking through and go, they have the Weeper? That'll be fun. So in this episode, they do. They turn the protagonists backwards. So, and it really is, it's almost how they phrase it. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you're just clicking next, say you have these episodes. You're watching them at home, you just clicking next as they show up. Well, you get to this episode, and it's Joker heavy up front, and then it's straight. But it takes you a minute to actually figure out what they're doing. And they do. They make the Joker not so much a good guy. They're still doing villainous things, but they write it as though doing the villainous things is what a protagonist would do. So Batman's still trying to stop crime, but somehow they make him into this overlord kind of character that you don't root for. And the poor Joker trying to revive this even poorer Weeper, they're the ones that they make you root for. And it's just all in how you write it, but they do a fantastic job of tweaking that subtle little line. God, a lot of fun. Kind of trippy, honestly, when you watch it the first time. Because there really is a very small delineation between a villain and hero and a lot of this stuff.
No, everything on this show is not roses. Like when you go to The Color of Revenge, you see Batman and Robin they're not cool anymore. They're against each other to some degree. I mean, they team up to stop Crazy Quilt.
Right.
But they've had a falling out.
Right.
And they actually do. They have like a little storyline where we see Robin, like he's pretty well grown there. We wind up seeing some flashbacks and we move on and we see like him become closer to Nightwing at the very least. There are just so many great episodes here, but Legends of the Dark Might, where Batmite kidnaps Batman and tries to make him a better hero, and this is the episode where he makes him vampire Batman, like the old Kelly Jones vampire Batman. He makes him like the Keaton Batman. He makes him the Adam West Batman. Too campy, too dark, too gritty, and he like pops over and there's like a big purple Batman with bat nipples, and he's like, just no.
Right. He ends up trying to take just somebody off the list, just pulls Calendar Man and gives him these absurd powers.
Yeah.
And, in traditional form, Batman tricks his little buddy. My favorite part of this is that it involves Ace the Bat Hound, who is delightful during this series.
He is.
Just absolutely delightful. What is that episode with, what is the... Hold on, I've got to find this. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Plague of the Prototypes. You have Adam West again.
Yeah.
Showing up as Proto, a machine that Batman built as a prototype to help him fight crime when he needed to be out doing something more galactic.
Yep.
Proto, though, it was thought didn't have the genteel nature necessary to make certain saves, and very long story short, he ends up being okay. And Proto's this giant, hulking machine whose best friend is like Ace the Bat Hound. They are adorable. They're just cute as all fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, and a lot of the show goes like that. By the way, they do justice to the dogs. Crypto shows up later in an episode where it's Battle of the Superheroes, where Superman and Batman actually have a Dark Knight Return style fight, complete with their armor.
Yeah.
Whole red kryptonite situation, blah, blah, blah. We've all been through the red kryptonite thing, right? But Crypto actually has to fight Superman for a second, and it's just, it's phenomenal. They actually, I watched very closely on the action. They do a good job of making sure that he doesn't actually hit his own dog at some point. He just sort of, like, the worst he does to him is, like, grab him by the cape and sling him around and, like, sling him out into orbit. Mm-hmm. And poor Crypto, like, he goes flying out into orbit and he gets about to a satellite's level and just, finally stops it and starts flying back, and you see his face get all serious. He just comes back and knocks Superman in the face. It's hilarious.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Buona Beast. We've mentioned Buona Beast way too much on this podcast. Way too much on this podcast.
Or not enough.
Or not enough. Buona Beast is a character he's an alien, and he can.
Well, it depends. He's not an alien for Grant Morrison's run, for instance.
Oh, he's not?
I don't think so. He's just I think he was just a dude in Africa for a
I don't know why I thought he was an alien. But anyway, this is a guy that he runs around in a loincloth, and he can he combines different animals.
He can kind of combine the the essence of two animals into one thing. So he can take a spider and a horse and make like a horse that's horse-sized, has all the appropriate legs, some fangs, and can jump off buildings now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of creepy and a little pretty awesome. And the best version of how this would affect you if you were actually in the show, Captain Marvel, who's not in the show very much, but he shows up here, and they basically, during Siege of Starro, they've been doing, for most of that season, the teaser. Normally the teaser is a little quick mini story where Batman and somebody, whoever his sidekick is that day, wrap up, Babyface or somebody in just about 3 minutes and call it a day, click to the credits, start the real show. Well, early on, what they start doing for Starro is nothing gets wrapped up. It'll just be an episode where somebody's running from something, and then they finally get caught, and it's another hero who now has this giant starfish on their face who slaps one on the other guy, and then they both, they all say, like, what is it, all hail Starro or something?
Yeah.
So in this one, the whole thing culminates. They did several cold opens where more and more, like, Atlantis gets taken over by stars, and at some point we realize Huntress is now flopping through the city, throwing stars at people. Mm-hmm. They culminate, though, in the Siege of Starro Part 1, where who does it end up actually being? It's they call him the Faceless Hunter. But anyway, it's Starro proper, this giant fucking starfish from the sky. Sounds like one of the dumbest ideas ever, right? But they treat it with a little bit of they actually make it seem like it makes sense. So you end up with this little ragtag team of Batman. Kind of sends out a signal to everyone who's not already star-faced. And all he ends up with is like Booster Gold, Firestorm, Buona Beast, Captain Marvel. That's about all he's got at his disposal. But Captain Marvel, they're all wondering what the hell Buona Beast does, so he shows them. He combines like a rat and a I don't know, beetle or something. Anyway, he does his power, and everyone's obviously grossed out except Captain Marvel, who, by the way, is a 14-year-old boy, really. And you just see him do it again. That's what all of us at 14 would have done if we found somebody who could combine animals, right?
By the way, I don't know why, but I have to go back and say really quickly, this version of Aquaman. Mm-hmm. The way he tortures his villains, he captures them, he puts them in jail. He puts them in jail in Atlantis, and he reads them stories from his adventures, memoirs from his adventures with Batman. Mm-hmm. And whatever the episode title was, like they'll reference the old. It's like some of the episodes. He'll be like, "This one I call Night of the Batmen."
Right.
An outrageous tale, and like the villains are just, oh, please stop. And he's like, so there we were. Cruel,
though. You're subjected to years and years, presumably at least years, of prison, where the man who imprisoned you regales you with tales of his own herodom. That sounds terrible.
And if
there were bed sheets in the Atlantean jails, they're going to come back and find a hanging black manta at some point, because there's no fucking way he's going to put up with that for too long.
And they do this great they do this great bit where they'll do like Aquaman telling a story, and he'll be like, Batman and I were stopping blah 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 at the bottom of the ocean, and then
it'll be like, well, we were facing Black Manta and his four Manta men. I don't know what you'd call it.
Four Manta men, whatever it was, and then it was like, and a legion of submarines.
What when he's telling it and somebody doesn't react enough, they're not going. Oh, I mean, here's 100 henchmen and a school of sharks. Two schools of sharks.
And a legion of submarines. And
right.
And by the end of it, it's just like them against like an entire army.
And they're asking him like, that didn't really happen. He's like, by Herod's beard,
Oh, this Aquaman is fun. They even do an episode where Aquaman is his wife and kid wind up saying like, look, we want a vacation, let's go do something together. You don't always have to fight crime. He's like driving around in a damn Winnebago, like
they tried to take they take, and he phrases it this way: we're going to take a vacation and see what the 30% of the world who isn't in the ocean lives like.
Right. And they're driving across country,
with tasting apple pie.
Right. But like as they're doing, like every time they have a stop off, Aquaman always winds up looking over and seeing like there's some big supervillain and there's Batman fighting him, and he's just twitching. He's like he wants to fight so bad. He's just
he really does.
So he's like it's one of those like sitcom situations where the guy's got two dates, except this dude like Aquaman is trying to like sneak around his wife so he can run and help Batman,
and
Batman's like and Batman's like, seriously, Aquaman, I've got this. Go hang out with your family, dude. And he's like, the battle shall be ours.
Right. Every time he gets sent away, he's saying, oh, but I want to help.
It's great.
Oh, and they do two just killer in-show jokes. Because up to this point in the show, they had never touched Superman. Just hadn't brought him up. I think he's in a shot one time, but that's it. And while there's a little montage while they're driving across country where they're showing where they're driving and they're going to Central City and stuff. And they start heading towards Metropolis for a second, and then they completely go around it and end up on the other side. It's like a quick little nope, not touching that one. But also while they're doing this, as he's going from city to city, he gets to the city and then he looks at he's looking out his RV walls and he's seeing whichever villain would be applicable to that city, and he's seeing the hero that's applicable, and you just see him, oh, I want to play. And every time they go through some of these during the montage, they actually listen to the music very closely. They do a send-up of every one of the major animated themes.
Nice.
You can just barely hear it. Dun dun dun. You can just barely hear it. If you listen to that, you even have that awful, and I mean fucking awful, Justice League theme. I hate that fucking song. But you can hear it. It's there. There's even the Batman Beyond sound is in there, I think. I don't know. It's too... dun, 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 dun.
Oh, you're talking about the Unlimited.
Yes, the Unlimited song. It sounded like they got Neil Diamond to come in and help him. Yeah, no, thank you.
But the first one was great. For just Justice League straight.
It was okay. But they do a quick little audio reference. You can listen to the music going through that spot, and they're all going to be a reference to some of the animated shows that come before them. It's fantastic.
Oh, they have tons of references to as far as I'm concerned, this is just a multiverse, because they actually do, there's a whole bit at the end of one of the episodes where like a portal opens and all these different Batmen from different realities come out. Batman Beyond is there, and so is like Kevin Conroy proper Batman from the animated series there. They also reference it when like Batmite goes to the comic book convention, and all the fans are upset that this isn't like a darker, TAS Batman.
Right.
And one of the great bits is like the two fans that are like most prominently displayed in that room of people is an animated version. It's Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, and it's like Paul Dini dressed up as Harley Quinn, and it's the same design as there's an episode of TAS,
which by the way
Joker's
I would do
Millions.
if I had created somebody as cool as Harley Quinn. I would be a cross-dresser every Halloween.
Oh yeah,
and some
but they
not
actually,
Halloween days.
they actually did the bit in Joker's Millions in the animated series, where Joker needs a new Harley, and he's like walking, and there's like a whole line of women dressed up as Harley, and he like walks up, and there's just this one really, like, he's just like, too short, too small, too fat, he comes up to this really tall fat dude with glasses, who is basically Deanie in the Harley Quinn outfit, and he looks at him, he looks him up and down, actually pretends to consider him. The guy gets really excited, and Joker just goes, no, and moves on. It's the same character design. But yeah, they do in the little convention hall, they do a Bruce Timm as the Joker and Paul Dini as Harley Quinn. They reference the animated series a fair amount in this show. They do, because that's the really standard.
It wasn't just a love letter to the Silver Age; it was a love letter to everything that was important before it.
It is. They threw out stuff for the movies. They threw out jokes for the animated series. Batman the Brave and the Bold. Oh man, and it is. It's just like the old Batman the Brave and the Bold comics. Like every episode, he's teamed up with another superhero of some sort.
Right.
We actually do. We see him punch Guy Gardner in the face and knock him out. And it's odd that apparently Batman is like such an inspirational hero in this universe. There are posters of Batman up in Blue Beetle's dorm room.
Well, he especially early on in his career, he's constantly, when he's just Jaime, he's having conversations constantly about what Batman could do and why he's the greatest hero ever. But he's not even alone. There's an episode called I think it's Powerless. Yeah, Powerless. I want to say it's season 3, where Captain Atom, who they paint as a giant douche, loses his powers and ends up having to just be a regular hero and figure it out that way. And there is, by the way, as good as the music is in the show, that one is terrible. It's Aquaman's little "What It Takes to Be a Hero" ditty, almost as bad as Joker's little song in the Emperor Joker episode. Those are a couple of very dark spots on the music, but honestly, past those two, the rest of the music in the show is freaking great. You can go watch Music Meister, and you're gonna have those songs in your head for 3 straight days. But they have an episode, and it's Powerless. Captain Atom loses stuff, but before that, he's just being a douche to everybody. And Captain Atom kind of he's sitting there with the Justice League. And he's like, "Yeah, it's fun to be attached to such a great group of heroes, except Batman." And they're all just taken aback. They can't believe what they've heard. Martian Manhunter even stopped eating cookies long enough to listen. They took all the little cute spots and just played them out.
Right.
But he does. They're taken aback, and Batman just doesn't even bat a lash. Doesn't care. So, well, I mean, he's just a human. He can't really be a superhero. You have to have superpowers to be a superhero. They do a whole blind ignorance episode with Captain Atom doing it, and even Aquaman pops in and goes, "But that's not true. He's the greatest of us all." Yeah, there's just open acknowledgement that he is the best of all of them by a long shot.
Yeah,
and doesn't even have any kind of powers. I mean, what is that other episode? Night of the Batman.
Yeah.
Aquaman, Captain Marvel, Green Arrow, they end up, and I think it's Plastic Man.
A delight in every episode he appears in, by the way.
He really is. Plastic. Go Eel. They end up having to kind of fill in for Batman one night because he gets injured, and Martian Manhunter's trying to help him convalesce, which unfortunately is a little bit like the torture method that Aquaman chooses, because he's up there explaining stuff to him in his droning voice, and you can just see Batman grinding his teeth, he wants the same thing. He wants to get out, go help his city. Gotham can't go without a Batman, all that stuff. Yeah. So Aquaman, Captain Marvel, Green Arrow, Plastic Man. That's not nothing. Go out and put on little Batman costumes and go try to keep Gotham under wraps until Batman's there. And none of them can figure. Every one of them has their own little vignette, and at the end of every one of them, they go, "How does Batman do it?" Every one of them can't figure out how he pulls this, because those 4 out there trying to do the job of one man, and they can barely hold it together. Mm-hmm. It's the show's reverence for him as the ultimate hero is unbounded, really.
Yeah, man, they have so many great characters on this show. Mm-hmm. The Flash, Green Lantern, Captain Boomerang shows up. Mirror Master, Abracadabra, like they're amazing, man. Like there are
just
people
in
that
the one episode I was just talking about, the villains they have to go stop. Deadshot, Cavalier, Babyface, Killer Moth, Sportsmaster, Funhouse, Penguin, Bane, Blockbuster, Solomon Grundy, Killer Croc, Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
And the Joker. That's just one episode.
Yeah. Oh, this show has possibly my favorite Joker origin story.
I can't remember. Go on.
Well, there's a whole bit in the show where Batman has to go. I don't remember which episode it is. It might be Emperor Joker, but I'm not sure. But Batman winds up having to go inside of the Joker's mind.
That is Emperor Joker, yeah.
And he sees like possible origins for the Joker, and one of them is Red Hood falling into the acid. But my favorite one is where Batman is like, or maybe it wasn't anything that grand at all. And it shows just a small loser of a man sitting in a cubicle, typing away at his little computer, and he's worthless, and his life is nothing. It's mundane, and without Batman, that's what Joker would be. And it hints that that's what Joker was before Batman.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite, because even when you go back and you're like, okay, he was a kid who was like killing animals, and he winds up killing his parents, burning their house down, or maybe he was the Red Hood. He was a comedian who was a failed comedian, and his wife and kid got killed. Whatever, that's all fine. Those are all fine Joker stories, possible Joker origins. But the one that somehow holds the most weight for me is that he was a nobody. Is that he had nothing, he was nothing, and just being mundane. He was trapped in this boring world of mediocrity, and one day he looks up and looks at a television screen and sees that there's a Batman, and that this Batman just saved people from some villain of some sort, and just that's enough to snap him. Just like there is more.
Yeah, honestly,
there's Batman.
You're describing it as though I would call it like the John David Chapman origin.
Yeah,
because that was the entire. I could go on for probably an hour about the specific circumstances surrounding Lennon's death.
Chapman.
But
Mark
David Chapman. I'm sorry. But yeah, he really is Mark David Chapman was reading a magazine. He sees John Lennon and Yoko standing there, and he in his head he decided that was a guy who had the world on a string, and that if he killed him, it would be his world somehow. Don't try to make sense out of it. It's serial killer thing, or it's assassination style thinking.
To this day, maybe Daddy had a knife. Maybe he said, let's put a smile on that face. But for my money,
who knows?
Alan Moore can kiss my ass.
Right.
Batman the Brave and the Bold did the best version of Joker's origin.
The only thing I don't like about it is, and I do, it has some power to it. The only thing I don't like is that it does make the Joker Batman's fault. Which, as far as a storytelling device goes, and wrapping that up, could be a lot of fun.
Well, he is anyway.
The story you and I have that one day maybe we'll be able to unleash upon the world. But
the day that Batman retires is the day that Joker quits.
Right? Well, it is. And
it's been said over and over again.
That's what he does. He goes into a catatonic state when there's no more bat to play with. Mm-hmm. Until finally awaking and to, what does he say? Darling.
Yeah.
It would be a weird word for anybody but him. For him, I'm like, yeah, that's how he would talk. Sure, no problem.
Yeah, you can pretty much put most any kind of dialect into the Joker's mouth, and I'll buy it.
Right.
Because I subscribe to the notion that Joker is a different person every few days. Like he just whatever.
That's why, this version wasn't like anything people had seen. Even this version of the Joker is very. It's not as animated as Hamill. It's not even Romero. It's not anybody. It's sure as hell not Ledger. It's just a slightly different kind of. He's a little animated, but it's not the same.
Yeah. And
there's no weird crispness to his voice. He didn't disguise it anyway. It's just a guy talking. But that can be anything in between. I mean, the Joker's in his first appearance, he had no animation.
Right.
It was monotone, and that was what was creepy about it.
They even say it like in the text, like a weird monotone voice comes out over the radio.
Right.
It's the Joker.
I still want someone else to deal with that.
I would like to do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. Either me or somebody. I don't know.
I would really like to hear it done, though.
You know,
capacity.
You know who I'd like to see do it?
Who's that?
Elijah Wood.
Really?
I think he'd do a fantastic job with that Joker. with like monotone Joker.
Oh man, if I could have put 1,000 people on a sheet of paper, and that wouldn't have been 1,001 as a guess for who you were going to say.
Right? I think he'd do a really good job of it, though.
I don't think I have a problem with it, but not who I would have expected. I don't know who I'd cast though as the monotone version of Joker.
I'd probably, Dexter would be a good call too.
Oh yeah, Michael C. Hall would do a great job with it. Fassbender as a monotone Joker.
Yeah, he might, but I want to see that cat if he ever gets to play the Joker. First of all, I'd rather see him play Batman. But if Fassbender ever got to play the Joker, I'd want to see him eat the scenery too much.
You're right. Also, he'd make a great Harvey Dent.
That would be a waste of Fassbender.
Harvey?
Yeah.
Nah. Okay, he's got a good facial structure for being able to do a Two-Face thing. You can't have somebody whose face is just too small or too featureless. It has to be a very defined skeletal structure to make that whole mess make sense.
You know who would make a good Harvey Dent? Gary Sinise.
I don't know him.
Gary Sinise?
Not by name.
Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. He's been in a bunch of other stuff, but I swear I don't ever know it. I never remember what those things are.
He's done other things, but
he's done a ton of other stuff. Like he was on like a TV series for like 12 years here recently, but I never remember the name of the stupid show. I really don't.
I don't disbelieve you. I just don't care to check up on it.
Yeah, and I don't care to look at it. So
right. So I'm gonna.
You guys tell us what Gary Sinise did. Like we're going to use our listeners as Google now. Right. You guys IMDb Gary Sinise and let us know what Gary Sinise has done,
so we can promptly forget that he exists yet again.
The only thing I was ever really like, I think he would play a good Two-Face, but I really wanted him to play Dr. McCoy in the Star Trek reboot. He looks like DeForest Kelley. I
could deal with it. Yeah, who did a good job though. Hey, by the way, something actually Brave and the Bold related.
Yeah.
That the last Patrol episode. It reminded me of something. When I was looking through, I realized, wait a second now. Last Patrols, they spent a fair amount of time in Midway City.
Uh-huh.
How much fun would it be if that Midway City police car didn't have anything to do with Hawkman? It was actually Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
I would really love to see it. Just a Doom Patrol movie would be a lot of fun. I mean,
it would be.
We're going to lose Justice League Dark, right? Well, let's throw them in. Let's throw them in instead.
Well, just because Guillermo del Toro isn't doing Justice League Dark anymore doesn't mean that no one else can.
Well, I agree, but
I still want to see Constantine team up with Swamp Thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want
to see Swamp Thing somewhere. Why has no one ever touched him? Did Grant Morrison teach us nothing, people?
Did Alan Moore teach us nothing?
Right. He's worth something.
He's worth a whole hell of a lot of somethings.
Yeah, I know.
He's the Swamp Thing.
He is. I really liked him when I was a kid too, so it was a damn shame. Now, if you watch the show, if you actually went back and watched these, or here's the part where you'd get struck is about midway through season 2. You start having it goes chill the night. So it gets pretty down on you there for a second. Gorillas in Our Midst, which isn't much better because the teaser for that involves the Spectre turning Professor Milo into a cheese block and letting him get eaten by the mice he was experimenting on.
Totally kid-friendly, too, by the way.
Right. They don't actually show it. There is a scream.
Right.
Not going to say you might not have to explain that kid. If the Spectre shows up on screen, just, maybe skip that episode with your kid. Maybe just skip that one. But it does. It gets a little heavier. Chill the Night, Girls on a Mist is a little dark. Then you have Siege of Starro, Part 1. Requiem for a Scarlet Speedster, which...
brilliant episode.
Really good. Really, really fucking good episode. But it's also, a little... It's not completely dark, but it is at least heavy. Then you end up... they actually split it up. It's Siege of Starro Part 2. I don't know why they got split up, but whatever. Last Patrol... then you've got like Mask of Matches Malone, which is more back to that's just back to being fun. Menace of the Madniks, though, that one's got some heart in it.
It really does.
Some real heart in it. Yeah, because the Booster Gold Blue Beetle relationship is really fun. But in this show, Ted Cord sacrifices himself to save many people, and Booster never really got to say goodbye to Ted Cord, and neither did Batman. And they end up, Booster starts messing with time like he's not supposed to, and ends up going back there to try to say goodbye to his friend, and It does, and it's very feely. But that again, it's not going to be. It's nothing that's not kid friendly. It's just there are some feels going around. That's all.
Yeah, that episode makes me sad.
It does. It's a good sad. They got to say goodbye and everything.
I know.
I don't know.
I miss Ted.
Don't we all? Why, Jeff? Why couldn't we have Ted? What was wrong?
I think I think it was like, what was it, Infinite Crisis in the comics, where he has cancer and he's not telling anyone, and then he just sacrifices himself or something.
God, I don't remember that at all, but I wouldn't put it past Cord.
Oh man, yeah, it was during the whole checkmate thing.
Yeah, it would
Ted Cord. Yeah. Oh man. So anyway,
there's a nice sad note to end on.
Yeah. Speaking of sad notes to end on, the final episode of Brave and the Bold, man.
Mightfall? Yeah, that speech.
Mightfall. Yeah.
Oh.
Where, man, Bat-Mite has decided he's tired of Brave and the Bold. He wants something more. He wants something more dark and everything. And we touched on it before, but he starts changing up everything. He makes Batman look like an action figure, like a variant action figure. Because fans
Ambush Bug
hate
is sitting there trying to convince him that this isn't real, that he's being messed with, and he's just being Batman. So he
because
just
as
trying to save the day and go on.
Batmite puts it, fans hate it when they change the character to sell toys.
Right.
So he gives them like
absolutely correct.
Oh yeah. But we keep cutting back to this family sitting there watching Batman the Brave and the Bold, and they're kind of getting tired of it. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. And then like the kid is like, come on, Dad, just one more minute. This is Batman. It's got to get better. I don't know what's going on in this episode. But
Diedrich Bader's voice, by the way, is the dad on the couch saying, it used to be good. I don't know what's going on.
And and one of my favorite and one of the most hilarious things they do on that episode is in the whole series really is Batmite he keeps changing the show because he's pushing for things that fans will hate, and one of the things is he's like, oh, fans hate it when they replace a beloved character actor. Or the voice of a beloved character. So instead of John Dimaggio's Aquaman, we're going to replace him with Ted McGinley. He always gets shows canceled. And it's like Ted McGinley is Aquaman for the rest of the episode, and he's defending himself to Batman.
He finally
does
show back up as Dimaggio for one more outrageous before it's all over.
He does. But you have Ted McGinley for reals. For realsies, y'all. Ted McGinley as Aquaman, and he goes, come on, man. Married with Children lasted 7 years after I got there.
Right. Like, the fourth wall for that episode is just beyond decimated.
But Batman does. He realizes, like, as they wind up in the Batcave at the end, and the way they do it is, like, Batmite winds up, we're going to do something that Batman would never do. And he puts him, like, in a Miami Vice type situation, and he's shooting guns.
Double-fisted semis.
Yeah, and
Ambush Bug.
Goes,
like, you would never use guns.
And that's when Batman realizes, I'm a cartoon. I'm not real. And they go and they have a final scene in the Batcave, and they actually have like construction crews in the background taking down the Batcave sets.
Which when they pick up, like, they go pick up the Batmobile and turn it, and it's cardboard. It's just cardboard propped up. And you realize the song in the background of that is the it's off the Music Maestro episode. The If Only You Could Love Me. That little canary song the whole time. They've got a little Muzak piano version of that. Which
but
only
it's
adds.
Like a rap party.
Yeah, it really is. All of the people are there. Buana Beast is back. Everybody's there. Everyone's just sitting around having drinks. It looks very. It's reverent. It's downright reverent.
It is, and Batman turns to the camera.
It feels more like a wake than anything else.
It does, and Batman turns to the camera and gives this speech about, this isn't the end because Batman will always be there for all children. And, oh my God.
I forget what he says exactly. It's like wherever there's villainy, wherever justice needs to be done, I will always be there.
Yeah, and it's not as hammy as that makes it sound.
Right.
Like, I wept. A grown man of 30 years wept. Hot, pathetic tears rolling down my fat face.
Right.
Because Batman will always be there for me.
Right. And he does. He accepts his fate with aplomb. He really does. He realizes it's a rap party. Now it's just Batman sitting there with like a drink in his hand, and he accepts fully the fate that he's on. So he's talking to Ambush Bug, and he kind of says that, well, I guess this is it then. And so is this all there? That's all there is to it. Okay. And he just turns to the camera and gives this speech about the hammers of justice and how they'll always be there for us.
The hammers of justice. Well, I don't think we've discussed the hammers of justice.
We haven't discussed the hammers of justice.
The hammers of justice, for anyone wondering.
Proto and his failed prototype Batman robot keeps getting it wrong, so he keeps calling them the hammocks of justice. And every time listening to Adam West say the hammocks of justice, it's great. But
the hammers of justice is what Batman calls his own fists in this show.
Right. And many of his little one-liners he uses right before he punches somebody in their fat villainous face. Yeah, he mentions his hammers of justice many times. It's terrible and great.
Blue Beetle has posters of Batman holding up his fists that say the hammers of justice.
Right.
It is awful but hilarious.
And they do this Batman accepts his fate fully, faces towards the camera, does a full shot, and then they do this. It's so sappy, but it's so fucking sappy. But you're just so sad to see like the Batcave being torn down in front of you.
Yeah.
And Batman just standing there with a drink in his hand, knowing that he's about to stop existing. All of that is happening, and it actually does get to you. So when it gets to this huge shot of everybody, I mean the Marvel family's in the shot. I forget where the tank is, but there's an episode with the tank in it. The tank's back. Mm-hmm. You got Plastic Man sneaking his little O'Brien head up over the crowd to be in the shot. You got Crypto. There's even one of the Metal Men, the little tin guy. Everybody shows up. Well, not everybody. Couldn't possibly get everybody there. But a lot of people show up for just one little, power shot. Even Skeets. Poor Skeets. By the way, Skeets, voiced by Billy West.
One of the most unfortunate names for a character ever.
They couldn't have known.
They couldn't have known.
They couldn't have known what. It sounded so cute at the time. His little buddy's kids. Yeah. And now there's Booster Gold porn out there with really bad puns.
Oh.
Rule 34, man.
All right. I think that's going to do it for us for this episode of DC On Screen. If you haven't, go watch Batman the Brave and the Bold. It's 3 seasons. It's literally what, man? Like 65 episodes?
Episodes, I think it is. And
65 episodes.
Only a couple of moments of wasted time in there.
Only a couple. And most of them have to do with Kamandi.
That Amazing Man thing. They did, like right before the series finale, they do a couple of kind of one-off shots. A couple of some of it's fun. One of them is just Amazing Man and Kitty Catastrophe. One of the dumbest damn things I've ever seen. just poor in every way.
Do you because my memory is blanking, do you know what we're talking about next week? It's Gods and Monsters, isn't it?
It is. Gods and Monsters is dropping.
All right.
It's next Wednesday. What is next Wednesday? Yeah, the 28th.
Yeah. It is
Tuesday,
dropping the 28th.
Next Tuesday, the 28th. Gods and Monsters is dropping. Do yourself a favor and find that somehow.
Right. You are going to get 2 episodes from us next week as well. We will do our news portion, and then we will do our Gods and Monsters review. We are DC On Screen. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher. Go, please, give us 5-star ratings and reviews and help us out. Like it really does help us out. You have no idea. We're also on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Go give us a like on the Facebook page. We will see you guys next week. Until then, put some DC on your screen. I know we will.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.